what you're doing is particularly concerned with how we live side by side along harmoniously with sloths in our neighborhoods, in our urban environments. This is a place where I found you guys have come up with some fascinating observations and then solutions. So talk to us about how this whole system of problem solving works.
Yeah, so it's one of the more surprising things that people who visit countries like Costa Rica, where we're based, they observe it. Like you don't think about urban wildlife, right? There's some species that immediately come to mind, and sloths is not one of them. You don't think of a sloth as an urban species, but sloths, as I mentioned before, they don't require very many resources. They don't need really big home ranges, or they don't rely on trees that only grow in primary rainforests, so they can survive alongside humans. And what we're seeing in countries like Costa Rica is that sloths are in this situation where they're living in the jungle, and then people come in and they cut some trees and they build houses, and towns and cities and farms sort of form alongside them. So if you come to the town where we're based, it's really not uncommon to see a sloth climbing through the restaurant where you're eating, or you walk out of your house in the morning and there's a sloth sat on your front porch. Sometimes a sloth will be in your house, like in the roof of your house, just hanging out. It's completely normal. It's not a surprising thing. And a lot of people say, well, we need to move them. Like, let's get these sloths back into the deep rainforests. But I don't believe that's a solution, because that's a band-aid on a problem. Humans are never going to stop expanding and encroaching into the remaining wild places. The real solution here is to encourage people and empower people to live alongside the sloths in a mutually beneficial way. The sloths, as long as we provide them with the things they need for survival, then they will happily live alongside people. And also that benefits the people, because people love sloths. They aren't threatening, they aren't dangerous to us. They're amazing to watch. People flock to countries like Costa Rica just to see sloths. So it provides economic benefits for local people to have the sloths around as well. It's really a win-win situation if it's done correctly. And that's what we try and do, is work a lot with local communities and try and show them, firstly, how to keep the sloths around, and then the benefits of doing that as well. So yeah, I find myself working a lot more with people than sloths these days, unfortunately. But yeah.
Let's just take a little detour into some travel savvy tips. If you go to Costa Rica and you, like everyone, love the sloths, don't love them too much, because tell us what's going on that we should be more savvy about.
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword, when somebody loves an animal that much, because lots of pop culture sensations these days. It not only does it helps raise awareness, it helps generate funding for our cause, and it's a good thing for people to love an animal, because it means they care about it. You're not going to care about something if you don't love it. So there's a good side, but yeah, there's an equal dark side, because this adoration for sloths means that people come here and they want to it's human nature to want to see something close up, to touch it, to feel its fur. And this has been made so much worse by social media, because there are a lot of unethical organizations out there which allow people to touch and hold sloths and take photos of that. Sloths don't like being touched. They're wild animals. They don't want to be held. It's very, very stressful for them. They don't have any way to show stress. Their defense mechanism, if they're feeling very scared, is to just sit still and hide and just hold on and wait for the danger to pass, because they can't defend themselves. So they internalize all their stress. And that's really the most heartbreaking thing, because sloths that are being put into these situations of being passed around groups of tourists, people think they're happy. They don't have any idea that the stress is killing the sloth. So there's this problem on social media where to hold a sloth has become normalized. In fact, if you look up sloth on social media, 70% of the photos that appear actually show people holding sloths instead of it being sloths in trees. So people don't realize it's wrong. They come to countries like Costa Rica, then somebody will approach them and say, "Oh, you want to come and hold a sloth in my backyard? You can, if you pay me $10, you can have a photo with it." And they spin a really convincing story about the sloth being rescued and how they're trying to get it back in the wild, and how they're trying to help it, and they need this money to feed the sloth or something. People don't know what that's wrong. They don't understand what's actually happened. And what is happening here in countries like Costa Rica is sloths are being taken out of the wild, often as babies, because adult sloths can actually they're not very pleasant to hold. If they've got sharp claws, and they squeeze really tightly. It's not a pleasant experience. So often they take the babies, which will involve either hurting the mom or killing the mom, and then they use them for profit. They'll pass them around and sell them around as photo props until that sloth dies, which it inevitably does, and then they get another one. So there's this ongoing poaching of sloths from the wild to fuel the demand for photo opportunities. Sloth selfies, it's called. In fact, we did have a little win. We've been talking about little wins. If you actually search for sloth selfie now on Instagram, it does come up with a warning message about animal abuse, which is great. So helping to educate people. But yeah, people don't realize it's wrong because of social media, and because also the sloths, if you've seen a photo of a sloth, you might notice they look like they're always smiling. They've got facial markings that make it look like they're always happy. And wherever you travel, like there's so many guidelines online now. If you search now, should I hold a sloth? All the information comes up about this. So it's just about being prepared when you go traveling anywhere, or you're going to book any sort of wildlife experience. Just do a bit of background research to see if it really is ethical and what the red flags are to look out for, because most of that information is quite widely available now. So yeah, never touch or hold a sloth. Rule number one.